In this second short video about clustering, I want to talk about clustering on its farther out fringe levels, levels farther away from the broad center. And this example I'm using is on protests. The last video that I developed had these levels already in place. We put these levels in place. I did, these 7. And now for this one, I want to just focus on war, okay? Because the idea is, let's develop this into its subtopics, etc. And each one will be connected to the cluster or the bubble above it, and in this way they'll be connected to protest. And for what I do with war, in your pre-writing technique, you might do with organized movements, parents and protest, historical protest, whatever. I'm sure there could be more bubbles on this general level, but you could work it out that way. And the more time you spend in this sort of clustering out or branching out into smaller and smaller nodes, the more key terms you have, the more ability to search with accuracy and efficiency, the more ideas you generate. Okay, so let's just work with war. War as a form of protest. That's what, as a form of protest. We have I know we have war on drugs. I'm just putting stuff that comes to my mind. Okay, just this is how you pre-write. Just put a bubble there connected to this. War on drugs, terror, war on terrorism. Okay, let's see, journalism on war. Now this, how does this really connect to protest? Well, maybe I'll have to redefine this, but there may be something here, a form of this, that will eventually be maybe I can show it to be a form of protest. So I'm going to put this up here, even though the connection to protest might not be that clear, but potentially it has potential. So it needs to make its way up as a bubble. I mean, if nothing else, I'll just scratch it out when I'm thinking through this again. So now what if I were to take something like this and to say, look, what about terrorist views? Terrorist views. I don't think a planned act of terrorism is going to be random, is going to be meaningless for them. What is the point they're trying to make? Might not they be trying to protest something? It seems that terrorists are going to be a cell, a micro unit, opposed to a much larger organism, the United States Army, whatever. So might not they have an activity that's viewed in essence as a form of protest? Now, journalism on war, what if these were to connect here, and how does mainstream media cover war on terror? Okay. Now this, let me draw another circle down here and put this here. Politicians discussing opponents in light of terrorism. Okay, because I know that sometimes a politician will say, well, my opponent or the other party or those that aren't for this bill seem to be supporting terrorists or aren't taking terrorists seriously. Again, how is this really a form of protest? Well, I don't know, but this might give me a way to look into it eventually to make the connection. All right, so now I'm taking a bubble that was just one level away, and I'm trying to connect bubbles to it, and bubbles to the bubbles, or clusters to the subclusters. So, topic, subtopic, what are we going to call this? Subtopic, subtopic. That language gets awkward, but the idea is these areas down here are much are loaded with the potential of being much more specific, much more manageable, much more focused, and those are all keys you want in a research project that's not going to overwhelm you, or that's not going to allow you to do a lot of work in it and end up with a very superficial project. So you need a specific focus, and doing this sort of thing helps. Now I'll do one more video in which I take some of these smaller units down here, a couple removes from the center, I'll develop them even further into more specificity.